Ahoy. Let me know if you can hear me. We're getting back on the stream, everybody. I'm going to post this tweet, and hopefully it will go out and not have an error like it did last time. How is everybody doing? You know, I got to be honest with you. I had kind of a rough day today, but I'm trying to keep it together and still accomplish the things I need to accomplish. But we're just going to see how this goes. Let me go to Discord and drop the link in there as well. And we'll just see if anybody shows up to help us with Eric today. Yeah, we are designing the fourth villain, Erick Idylvain, today. We finished Dr. Hubert last time. And by finished, I mean I jotted down a bunch of ideas, and we brainstormed a lot of things, but I have to sort of coalesce all those ideas into mechanics, which I have not yet done, because he's pretty daunting, and I took last week off. So let's get into the Discord. Copy paste some stuff. Paste this in here real quick. Boom. Boom. All right, so like I said, today's task is to design Erick Idylvain. So the way that we've been doing these characters is that we have been trying to design 3 different versions of them that can work for 3 different campaigns, or work for 3 different stages in someone's campaign. The idea is to create a villain that a DM can use. Here, I'm going to move the mic closer to me. Whoa. That a DM can use in their campaign. Apologies if that was loud. Either as like an interstitial villain or even potentially as the main villain. Hey, Brooke, what's going on? Let me know if you can hear me and see me okay. I'm not sure how many people we'll have today because I know Vaughn was out at least for Dungeon Crawl. And I think Alan is out of town. So it may be just you and me, Brooke, or maybe somebody else will pop in. Maybe Ryan or Shadowner or someone will make an appearance. Either way, we should get some work done on Eric today if we can. Great. Perfect. Thanks, Brooke. So yeah, we're trying to design these villains to be standalone villains that DMs can use in their campaigns as they wish, but have different iterations of different CRs. So a CR5 iteration, a CR10 iteration, a CR15 iteration. Oh, yeah, we got that autofocus going. I'll try not to move around too much. Let me see if I can turn that off, actually. Video settings, advanced. Off the autofocus, save. Okay, try that. Seems better. Maybe we're a little delayed right now. Okay. So, great. Let me see. Yeah, so we're just going to brainstorm some basic stuff right now, and then we will see how that goes. So with Eric, what I thought would be interesting would be to try to keep his design distinct from the other characters' designs. So with Dr. Hubert, for example, since it's 2 different characters, you were trying to find a way to have fighting both of them at once sort of equal a CR5 encounter, or a CR10 encounter, or a CR15 encounter. So thinking about Eric, who's a character who transforms, right? For those of you who don't know, Eric is a sort of a human wretch. Like, he was this religious devotee. He was kind of like an acolyte in the church who constantly was pursued around the countryside. He and his sort of heretical sect were chased around by the more legitimate religions. And he kept praying to his God, hoping for the strength to defend his flock, but just was never answered. And so finally, eventually turned to Yogg and asked for power, and Yogg transformed him into this beast that was able to slay his enemies. But as the beast, he no longer basically has any control over himself, and he's transformed into this ravening monster. So he's gotten the strength that he wanted, but at the same time, it's come at this terrible cost. And so Eric the man is a very different character than Eric the monster, and that's kind of one of the things we want to explore here with these mechanics. So man versus monster is kind of the big theme. The way I kind of wanted to play with that was to have the CR have basically Eric maintain the same stats no matter which level you face him at. So the CR5 Eric versus the CR15 Eric is the same, but it's the gargoyle that gets more powerful. So in the CR5 version, the CR5 gargoyle. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, as he obviously as he goes higher in CR, he has more control over his monstrous self. I think that's cool. Gains more control the higher level he gets. I think that's strong. But I like the idea that maybe we'll put this under structure, separate from brainstorm. That the higher level he gets, or that the gargoyle gets higher level, but he does not. Oh, sorry, moving this around. Here we go. Oh, that's cool. CR5 is very berserk, and CR15 presumably is scary control. I like that. Eric remains the same CR, probably 5, at all 3 levels. But the gargoyle improves at each benchmark. Yeah, I like that, Brooke. So there may be a thing to do with mechanics. So the way that the gargoyle traditionally works, every round, Eric makes a con save to remain in gargoyle form. The longer he goes without killing someone, the harder the DC becomes. That might be a little bit difficult to mechanize. It's something that Paul and I worked out, that it basically starts at 0 and it goes up by 5 each round. He's very good at con saves, so he's able to maintain the gargoyle form for at least a couple of rounds, even if he's killed no one. But that it sort of incentivizes him to be kind of this wrecking ball where he slaughters his way through multiple enemies. But when faced with one target, he's actually kind of at a disadvantage because he will eventually break out of his form. Oh, the Blood Hunter mechanics. That's the Tel de Rey stuff, right? From Critical Role. Yeah, I should check that out. We do con, but I feel like I'm sure the mechanics could port over pretty well. So how do we mechanize the control thing? We could remove the save. Oh, cool. I will check that out. Remove the save at higher levels, at higher CRs. So it could be a thing where once he gets... there could even be kind of an interesting mechanical thing to do where... not mechanical, but flavor thing to do, where at low levels he's trying to stay a gargoyle, and at high levels he's trying to turn back into a human. That the con saves are like, maybe they're con versus wisdom or something. They're like, it's Eric trying to revert to his human form, whereas he begins as the gargoyle in the beginning. That like, if you make the narrative is that the more powerful he gets, the more the gargoyle takes over and is in control, right? So it's like, tells this sort of story of the beast slowly usurping the man. That's kind of neat. It would basically just be flavor, but I think that's a fun way to do it. At higher CR, the gargoyle, or Eric, is attempting to break the curse. Is attempting to revert. Put that at lower CR. Eric is attempting to stay as a gargoyle. And that's such a classic Hulk, right? Like, he doesn't want to do it, but he can't help himself, kind of a thing. Which is, one of the big touchstones. Eric was actually inspired by Sauron. Not Sauron, but Sauron, the X-Man, who's like a man who turns into a horrible pterodactyl and can like suck out the life essence of people. Yeah, it's weird. But we made some like modifications and stuff, obviously. Let me see. I might start and stop the stream, actually, because I'm seeing a lot of delay on my end. Are you seeing any delay, Brooke? How does it look on your side? Okay. Or stop and start, not start and stop. So what kinds of abilities does he have? He has I'll just copy this over. Yeah, a little delayed. Let me try that. So I'm going to, I'll be right back. I'm going to stop and... Is that any better? Still seems kind of delayed. Let me just quit OBS real fast. Sorry, 1 second. And we're back. Hopefully not so delayed this time. Let me check, actually. Can you still see me, Brooke? Am I returned? Okay. Awesome. Is the delay still there? Perchance? Okay, yeah, let me look up the Blood Hunter. Beyond. Okay. So what abilities do we know that the Gargoyle has? The Gargoyle has resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing. Piercing and slashing damage. We could improve that to... Oh, yeah, you're trying to copy it over. That's fine. I can dig it up, Brooke. Don't worry about that. Improve to immunity to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing. I think he needs to... The Gargoyle needs to be sort of the most fearsome melee combatant we've done yet. Like, Elizabeth is pretty tough, but I feel like he has to just be absolutely unstoppable. From non-magical, not, yeah. From non-magical attacks. It's not that ridiculous. The CR, like, I think most golems have that, and that's pretty, it's like CR 9 or something like that. It's nothing too huge. Looking up the Blood Hunter right now. What else can he do? He can, I've got my format kind of messed up, but that's fine. He can hurl fire. You could give him kind of an increased fire throwing capacity. Kind of like makes you think of the Flame Skull has a bunch of stuff like that, like some spells that they can use as he gets higher level. But that feels very elementary. Let me see. Looking up the Blood Hunter. You're looking for Bloodlust. Huh, I'm not seeing Bloodlust. I see Hunter's Bane, Crimson Rite. Is that like a particular fire hands? Oh, that's cool. Like claws that deal fire damage. Obviously, so bite and claw attack. Or the lichen. Okay, got it. At higher levels, both bite and claw deal. Maybe just claws, because I feel like he's got the thing on the hand, right? He doesn't really have a breath weapon, per se. Claw attacks deal fire damage. Bite attack has potential to grab. It's one thing that Paul does a lot, where he'll like flavor his kills as like biting people and ripping them apart or whatever. So if you have the bite can maybe grab, and then the claws can deal a bunch of fire damage when they hit. Okay, Order of the Ghost Slayer, Order of the Lichen. Got it. Hey, what's up, Jose? Thanks for coming, man. Nice to see you. Bloodlust. Here we go. At the start of your turn, if you've taken any damage since the beginning of your last turn, you must make a Wisdom saving throw or to maintain control. Oh, this is a good way to do it. The DC equals 10, or half the total damage you've taken from an attack since your last turn, whichever number is higher. So it's kind of like a concentration check. That's cool. On a failed save, you must move directly towards the nearest creature to you and use the attack action against that creature. If there is more than one possible target, the DM chooses the target. You then regain control for the remainder of your turn. So that's kind of a... I really like that. I think the mechanics there are really nice in terms of doing basically a concentration-like effect. I'm trying to think if there is a way to incentivize other things. Because here's the problem, is that I envision the gargoyle... This mechanic basically exists to create the frenzied berserker sort of dangerous ally feeling, right? That like they fail that save, they go to the nearest creature, which may be an ally, and use the attack, like takes away their autonomy. So maybe there's a mechanic we can work on with Erick or the gargoyle, where he doesn't fight very strategically, that he only goes after what hurt him most recently. That's interesting. I think it feels defensive. It feels sort of like a cornered animal, which is like maybe not a bad idea or a bad tone, but I feel like he's much more of a hunter. He's much more of a like the fact that the trigger is that he takes damage, right? It's like it draws his aggro. So how do we communicate that he's out of control and doing things that are not necessarily advantageous? Because the way in which the players will encounter him is as a bad guy. So like the hurting your allies thing doesn't really apply. He feels like kind of a solo monster. I think you're right, Brooke. I think it's here. I really like the... Oh, you're totally right. It is a good starting point. I'm just trying to figure out like what can we do to make it more gargoyle focused. Basically, yeah, I was saying. So he we kind of talked about this earlier, but when this is Brooke's idea, when he's a lower level CR, like CR5, he's very out of control, and that the higher level he gets, the more he gets control over the monster, or the monster takes control of him. So he's very calculating and lethal at the higher levels, but just kind of a wrecking ball at the lower levels. It could have like a confusion effect, like he could do a number of random things that aren't necessarily tactically advisable, like breaking things or hurling fire or doing whatever, right? It might be kind of interesting to like take the tactics out of the DM's hands and basically have the gargoyle act randomly. He did come in like a wrecking ball. What is the next line? I don't think he ever fell so hard in love. Is that the fucking line in Wrecking Ball? Now looking at Wrecking Ball lyrics. But if there's a way to like, yeah. Hey, Seldari, thanks for coming. I never hit so hard in love. That's what it is. It never hit so hard in love. Okay, cool. So let's see. How do we talk about this? I like the notion of maybe, a chart makes sense. Roll on a chart for random behavior. CR5. I think there's something to the notion of whenever he takes damage, he makes a save against getting knocked out of the thing. Knocked back into... Oh, that could be interesting. Because a D100 would be a pretty big chart, but we can figure that out. Or you just make the categories really, broad. He makes a save against getting knocked back into human form. Could be a thing. Gains advantage if he's reduced someone to 0 hit points. Because there could be this fun thing of maybe this would be too underpowered, but there could be this fun thing of, basically it's like a concentration effect, that every round he is trying to save, especially if the party's hitting him multiple times, that every round he's trying to stay in gargoyle form. He would have to be really, really good at these saves, or else I feel like he would just get knocked back to human form very quickly. The other thing I want to talk about too while we're here is what does Erick have? What is Erick as a human and not as a monster? Let's see. Or it fails make the beast hungrier. So maybe make it a tally, and for each step the gargoyle drives harder for control. Okay. Yeah, that was one thing I was curious about. It's like, how do you keep track of that? Like, is there a way to like, because the way we have it right now in the game in All Hell Yogg, it's like an increasing DC, right? It starts at 5, starts at 0, and then goes to 5, then goes to 10, then goes to 15, then goes to 20 or whatever, however many rounds it's been. I like that mechanic for a player, but I feel like it's a lot to do for a DM. So I think you're right that there's got to be some kind of a duration tracker we can do. Maybe it's just the concentration. Maybe it's something more involved. I don't mind getting a little bit involved with the villains. It's just a question of how much is too much. So for Erick as a human, he's got a handful of sort of survival type abilities. He's got Feral Instinct, which is a barbarian thing. Gives him advantage on initiative and lets him transform earlier. Because this Feral Instinct does something with rage, I'm pretty sure. That's cool. Yeah, I think we're gonna do con saves, Jose, because that's what we do in the adventure. But each below 10 is a total fail, and on 10s is full gargoyle. Danger sense could be in there. Yep. We could even probably rope those two things together. That he's got advantage on initiative / dexterity saving throws. He has got cunning action. Can take dash, disengage, hide as bonus. And then there's one other thing. No, I like wisdom. I think one thing we talked about, Jose, was that maybe it's what that the CR5 gargoyle uses con and the CR15 uses wisdom, because the notion was that he's trying to, at first, because Erick is weak, he's trying to stay in gargoyle form because it makes him more powerful. But as the gargoyle takes over more and more of his life, that it's most of the gargoyle, but every round it's Erick trying to like reassert his control. The human is trying to like break the spell. So it might be interesting to make it wisdom at the CR15 or something, make it a different ability score. I don't know how player facing that is, but it could be really fun on a role playing level to like make that distinction. So I think there's definitely room for wisdom. I don't know how we break it down. All ideas are good ideas. And then I feel like he has one other thing as Erick that I'm not remembering. He has Jack of all trades, but that's not really interesting for a monster ability. Random skills. Because the notion was he's been kind of like a refugee and a runaway for a really long time, so he has a lot of random knowledge and a lot of random abilities that you wouldn't expect him to have. But one thing we talked about too was that the Erick power set doesn't change, that it stays the same throughout all 3 of the different iterations. It's only the gargoyle that gets more powerful. I guess this would technically go down here. So I think it's something along those lines in terms of what his actual powers are. I don't know if there's slightly different ones we could do. But it's things like that. They're the things about surviving and sneaking and getting away. None of them are very combat heavy, right? You even give him ranger points like Natural Explorer and Primeval Awareness. I could see that. One of the inspirations for the gargoyle, or for the character, was the Abomination class in Darkest Dungeon. I mean, it's almost exactly the same. They turn into more of a demon than a gargoyle, but there's a lot of similarities. And one thing that the Abomination can do there is he can kind of like half manifest into his beast form, so it lets him like spit poison or grow one arm into like a horrible claw and attack with it. So there might be something like that where he could kind of like half transform for a second, for a round, to do something cool and give him some sort of supernatural ability as well. Let me put those down. I like Natural Explorer / Primeval Awareness. Put those in. Primeval Awareness feels supernatural to me, like he would have to, maybe he's tapping into his like gargoyle senses. But that's another good thing. Give him some cool magic senses. I feel like I'm bad at this. There we magical, so senses. I like him having, obviously, like, dark vision and stuff is fine. I kind of like the idea of him having sort of a hunter's quarry or hunter's prey thing. I think the Blood Hunter has that, right? But almost more of a thermal vision. Hey, what's up, dude? How you doing, Alan? I thought you were out of town. Oh, interesting. You're saying give him a warlock weapon, gargoyle claw into a mace. I could see that. Maybe he has a. Right now, I think he only has dagger in the show, but that doesn't mean he can't have a different weapon here. Especially if he has like a religious connotation. I like him having a mace. That's a good question, Alan. Does the light day/night abilities and sensitivities work into this? I could see him having a sensitivity to light. We never really play with that in the show. He just turns into the gargoyle. But I like the notion of him having like a thermal vision, sort of predator vision style thing, right? Where he can. It isn't just that he can see in the dark, but that he can specifically see. Maybe he can see I don't know if I want to call it true vision or true sight, but it's a similar thing where he can see people even if they're not there, even if magic distorts him. It is central to the Gargoyles cartoon. That's very true, because they're all the sort of petrified during the day and active during the night. Maybe there's a way to make him not necessarily like hindered by daylight, but make him more powerful at night. Yeah, that's cool. Again, the thing is that he's like, this is a monster, right? This isn't a character. So we wouldn't necessarily need to come up with like magic items or anything like that. We could just give him a fly speed when he's a gargoyle. But yeah, I think there's something interesting about more powerful at night, right? That like, rather than having him just be like weak to sunlight, if it's he can still function in the day, but there's like a narrative role-playing reason for a DM to put the encounter at night. And I like the notion of that feeling very story-based and less mechanical, right? I don't know what that would be, whether he gets like regen or something at night. If he's like under the moon, maybe. Because, if he's in a cave or he's in a dungeon or something, you wouldn't necessarily know. Yeah, but it's like the opposite, right, for Jose. It's rather than the debuff, he gets a buff. Yeah, okay, cool. So what else does he have? He has, yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, disadvantage on saving out of the gargoyle form when it's nighttime. I dig that. Other things he has real quick, just to get him in here. He's got Earth Glide. Can meld through stone without disturbing it. He's got... What else did I give that stupid gargoyle? He's got Siege Monster. Deals double damage to objects. I kind of like the idea of him having some sort of a... so the way that... Originally, one of Paul's concepts for the character was that he got life energy from stealing... Oh, that's a good point, Jose. Any stone or naturally formed stone. I think we could maybe improve that. Starts with unformed natural stone, but ends with... Does he also have a dog that's named after a famous district in New York City? Alan, is that what you're proposing? Can he be voiced by Keith David? That's what I want, because Keith David makes everything better. Yeah, I actually wouldn't be opposed to Keith David as the voice actor for the Gargoyle version of Eric. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That is Keith David. Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. Keith David's great. He's not in enough things. I don't think. Is Gargoyle X that wants him dead? Yeah, man. That's for sure canon. There's a X-Gargoyle out there. Okay, what else does he have? Oh, like, I liked the idea of... So, originally with the Sauron concept, the X-Men Sauron, Paul liked the notion that he, like, pulled life essence out of his victims. So I like the idea that he gets much more powerful... That, like, his incentive is to kill as many people as possible as quickly as possible. So it will A, stave off the saving throw, and it will B, maybe give him health, and C, even maybe give him extra powers, so that he is like like a blood drinker, something like that, right? Like he has advantage on saving throw during the round when he kills someone, gains some temp hit points or something like that, has advantage on all attacks his next turn or something like that. That, like, he's highly incentivized to, like, Batman around and pick off the goons. Like, rather than going right at the big guy, he's the one who will pick off all of the smaller, weaker enemies. Yeah, there's a lot of good voice actors in that show, dude. Gargoyles was good. I should watch it again. I think Gargoyles is one of those shows people remember more fondly than the show actually was. Like, if you go back and watch it, I think it's like a lot more cartoony than people remember. I think that's true of a lot of, like, 90s cartoons like that, because when you're a kid, you view it as being very serious, but then when you see it in context, you realize how silly it was. A friend of mine is, like, terrified of Sentinels from the 90s X-Men cartoon, and, like, was as an adult to this day, until I had to point out to him, because I'd never watched the cartoon when I was a kid, that, like, they're giant purple robots. Like, I can't think of anything less scary than a Sentinel, right? But he was absolutely terrified of them, because when he was a kid, they were very scary, but hadn't really put them in context. That is true of most cartoons except for Batman Beyond. That show is legitimately rad, and I will brook no argument on that topic. I'm sure there's good stuff. I haven't watched it in a very, very long time, but Batman Beyond is cool, and you guys should watch it, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, this seems like a good amount. So I think we need to crack this saving throw thing, because that to me is like the heart of the beast here. So flavor wise, at CR5, Eric is trying to stay in gargoyle form. At CR15, it is the gargoyle. Like, Eric is trying to break free from the gargoyle form and turn back into himself. CR10, I don't really know what stage he's at there. That's the one that's sort of the canon example. That's where he is at the time of the child, and basically all Hell Yog. So it could be kind of a tug of war thing, where depending on the circumstance, it could be one or the other. In the show, mechanically, as we talked about, it's Eric making saves, and the DC getting increasingly higher. If we go by the Blood Hunter example, which I think is strong, whenever he takes damage, he makes a save against getting knocked back into human form, which is kind of like a concentration effect. So I don't know what the happy marriage between those two things is. Batman Animated is good. Like, nothing wrong with Batman Animated at all. But Batman Beyond is so good, so well done. Underrated, in my opinion. Okay. So how do we crack this? What's the right answer here? The damage thing, I think, is interesting, because it already maps to an existing mechanic in 5e, basically concentration. But I don't know if it's exactly right for the gargoyle, because I feel like it has a very defensive, don't hurt me kind of a tone to it. That, like, that's the subtext, is that you don't want to get hit. Whereas I think with Eric, he is almost unstoppable, right? That, like, he doesn't mind if you attack him, because he will take so little damage from it, and he'll presumably heal back up or do whatever. So is there a way to change the terms of it? So like under what context is he making the save every time? Is it just every round? Is it just a maintaining thing? Which we could do, but I feel like is a little bit uninspiring. Because the damage, excuse me, the concentration effect is cool because it's like inspired by outside stimuli. It's like directly as a result of the players taking action against the gargoyle, as opposed to the gargoyle just like making checks at the end of every round and like hoping like, oh man, I hope that I can stay. Yeah, that's a good question, Alan. Does Eric also make saves to stay Eric if he takes damage, like sort of a Banner Hulk thing? He could. Right now, as it exists, it's something that Eric can just turn on. He can willingly choose to become. You could change it and have it be that, like, he doesn't want to. But I think, at least at low levels, Eric wants to become the gargoyle because it makes him stronger and more powerful, right? That, like, he doesn't understand the dangers of it yet. And then at 15th level, I think you're unlikely to encounter Eric. I think you encounter the gargoyle. The gargoyle is taking over most of his life. So maybe at higher levels, it's a damage thing. It's at the CR 15 one, it could be when he gets hit, he has to make a save to remain. Like, that gives Eric an opening to try to come in and take back over. And that's like the gargoyle's big Achilles heel at that level, is that at any moment he could turn back into Eric. The rage ability runs off taking hits. You could reinforce the theme that violence makes the beast more entrenched in Eric. Oh, that's kind of cool that, like, if he gets hit, he doesn't have to make a save. Oh. That, like, if you deal damage to him, then he stays as the gargoyle. That's kind of cool. What do you guys think about that? That, like, he only has to make saves on rounds when he doesn't take damage. So you're kind of in this weird catch-22 of, like, do you keep hitting him? Or is it better to, like, cast Hold Person on him and hope that it just, like, runs out the clock? That's kind of neat. That, like, the more you hit him, the angrier he gets, right? Or it could be both, yeah, when he doesn't deal damage, yeah. So every round that he deals damage... So is it both? Is it like when he takes damage and when he deals damage? Yeah, I like that a lot, Jose. Maybe that's like the middle stage. Jose says, make him go like the Mr. Hyde path, full of hubris. I can quit whenever I want, and it keeps giving the gargoyle more control each time, and it keeps being tempted to let the beast out since he can control it. So, like, he's deluding himself at the CR10, right? The gargoyle is essentially in control, or almost totally in control, but Eric thinks it's him, right, still controlling it. That's cool. That's the right tone, I think, for sure. I mean, Jekyll and Hyde is one of the big inspirations here, too. So what do we think? I like... let's change this. So, whenever he deals damage or takes damage, the gargoyle doesn't make a save on a round where he does neither, or neither happens. He does make a Constitution save. Yeah, I like that. On a failure, he reverts back to Eric. So that's the question then. How does he turn into the gargoyle? Is that something Eric can willingly do? Does he just spend an action and turn into the gargoyle? Does he have to get hit? You could do a banner thing. I'm trying to figure out if there's like a more character motivated, like just to make him a little bit different from the traditional banner. Which is like that's very Hulk, right? Is push him out of push him off a cliff or whatever, and by the time he hits the bottom, because it's adrenaline, he'll turn into the beast. To make it more of a Hyde thing, I think Jose is right. I feel like it has to be a choice. I think he can do it. I think he can just turn it on, right? But then once he loses it, maybe he can't do it again. It's like once per day or once per, short rest or whatever. He can't do it multiple times. He's mechanically based off of the Druid as a PC, so he does have 2 uses per day mechanically, but this is the monster, right? We can do whatever the hell we want. I feel like the hubris has to be an element that he willingly does it. He turns it on. He lets the beast in. So having it be like a reactionary thing doesn't quite feel right. He has the ability to transform. Action or bonus action. Oh, I like that narratively. I feel like mechanically it's a little bit bleh, right? Like, why wouldn't he just do it right away, first thing, first turn? Is there something keeping him from doing it? Is there some, like, can he only do it if he's below max hit points or if he's bloodied or something like that? Like, he can do it, but even that still feels like when he takes damage. Like, I'm not sure. I really like the takes damage or deals damage thing. I think that's smart because it changes the nature of the combat a lot. If you try to just slug it out with the gargoyle, you're just going to lose. That you have to kind of, as Alan puts it, not play, right? Change the terms. Speech or looks or memories. So yeah, if he can do it, if he can start it, then like, you don't want to tie it. It can't be a trigger. It can't be something that happened to him. Yeah, the way Paul played Eric was as a reluctant and sweet guy who didn't want to become the beast. I think part and parcel of that is because we're sort of like further along in his arc. I think when we meet Eric in All Hail Yogg, he's the CR10 version. So I think he's realized the damage and destruction that the gargoyle is capable of, and is realizing that maybe he doesn't want to do this anymore, but the gargoyle sort of takes over. So I think that's like his middle stage, where he's realizing, oh shit, I've made a huge mistake. I think that the CR5 version anyway is him, like still drunk on the power, right? That he's getting back at the people who tormented him and persecuted him, rather than realizing the danger. So the CR5 then, narratively, CR5, we'll put that under structure. CR5, drunk on new power. Growing concerned. Like, CR15 is like a prisoner inside the gargoyle, right? Because again, it's not that like Paul's characterization isn't true here or isn't important, but you kind of have to make the character work as a bad guy. There's something interesting about, I mean, I don't know, maybe we could do the unwilling thing, right? I just feel like, let him, the beast, have killed something he loved. You don't need to give him the story, just an image, statue of two lovers, or narrative, or instinctual sake. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely something you could work in there in the backstory as to like, what was the thing that pushed him over the edge? It made him realize, like, why did he agree to it in the first place? And why is he, like, going back on it? Like, I think rather than doubling down on, I can control the gargoyle, which is what I said earlier, maybe it's better if he's, like, more reluctant about it. So does the nature of it change? Like, in the first version, can he just do it as an action because, fuck you, I'm powerful? And then in the second version, he actively tries not to. And it only happens when he takes damage. That might be it, right? That like the nature of the transformation changes with each iteration of him as his relationship to the beast changes. Getting real philosophical here. Later, he is more reluctant and unwilling to transform, and must be coaxed or prodded into his beast form. And you could like flavor it as When struck, you see a flash of the gargoyle underneath. He's proud, arrogant, full of his new power. And then I think the CR a puppy. Finally, yeah, exactly. It feels good the first time, then there's guilt, and then you're trapped by it. I just think that gives him more of a narrative arc, right? Like, yeah, I think we could do something like that. There's also that trick where I'm trying not to tie him too much to any particular backstory. We suggest different backstories in the document, but I can definitely make a thing about what did the gargoyle take from him? A loved one, a pet, something like that. It's because the pet's always like a nice symbol of just pure innocence that doesn't require a lot of complex backstory or yucky gendered stuff, with a fridged girlfriend or whatever. A pet is a nice way to get that feeling without, taking away an actual person's agency. He is trapped, as Alan put it, by the creature. He is desperate to escape. And I think there's something cool about the notion that if you do manage to break him out, right? If you manage to break him out of the gargoyle, he begs you to help him, right? That he has become a prisoner inside of it. That he's had his most sympathetic at CR15, and if you can fight your way through the gargoyle and defeat it or pull him out, right? Then he's what was I going to say? He's an ally almost, or is friendly towards you, sees you as a rescuer. But if you agree to work with him, it's only a ticking time bomb before he comes back. This is maybe weird, but is there something to the idea of he is the gargoyle at CR15 is so powerful that he is... Because right now I have abilities. We have resistance that eventually becomes immunity to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. Is it too much to say, and probably it is, especially at CR15, to say that the gargoyle is immune, at CR15 is immune to damage? That he's so powerful that the only way to defeat the gargoyle is to pull Erick out, right? That you can't beat the gargoyle in combat. Maybe there's a trick, maybe you can banish him or do something non-damaging to defeat him, polymorph him into something maybe, but even that's only a temporary stopgap. That the idea of beating the gargoyle into submission feels wrong to me. That the only way to defeat the monster is to get at the man, is to free the man, right? And that means forcing him to bomb a saving throw or casting whole person on him until he can no longer make these saves. I kind of think that's interesting. Maybe it's a reverse petrification thing. Yeah, I mean, you could turn to stone, but I was just thinking, that's funny, Jose, that you say that the way petrification works right now, at least with the Medusa, let me look up the Medusa in 5e, because that might be a good tracker, right? I think there's something cool about and unique about giving a monster immunity to damage. That sounds crazy and super difficult, but if you're a 15th level character, you've got more interesting tools in your bag than just your sword, right? Especially if you fought him multiple times and you know how tough he is. But at this point, especially if he's a gargoyle, his thing is enduring and resisting and being impregnable. So let's see. The way the petrification works is it has multiple saves. So if the saving throw fails by 5 or more, the creature is instantly petrified. Otherwise, a creature that fails the save begins to turn to stone and is restrained. The restrained creature must repeat the saving throw at the end of his next turn, becoming petrified on a failure or ending the effect on a success. So is there a way to do something where when, at least at the CR 15 level, when he's bombing those saves, if he fails 1, he suffers like a level of exhaustion. If he fails 2, he suffers 2 levels of exhaustion or whatever. If he fails 3, he turns back. Like, is there some way to use exhaustion or some similar mechanic to like chip away at him, right? That's how you mechanize the saving throws, is you basically do an inverted version of petrification, because he is stone turning back into flesh. That like the more throws that he fails, because you could have it just be 1. Oh, he failed it, he's back to a human, and maybe at CR5 that's how it is. And yes, petrified should definitely go on the condition immunities. Yeah, I just like the idea of it being like a track. That at CR5, 1 failure is enough. At CR10, maybe it's 2 failures. At CR3, it takes 3 failures. And with each successive failure, he gets weaker or suffers some disability or something like that. Sorry, this is all very top-down. I'm just trying to get a handle on some of these mechanics. But yes, abilities under resistances, immune to petrification. How do you spell petrification? Something like that. I like that. Jose about daylight. Oh, that's interesting. Do you think he gradually transforms into the gargoyle? Or do you think he can instantly turn into a gargoyle, but he like slowly turns back into a human? My instinct is that the gargoyle is like easy to call up, but the longer that he stays as a gargoyle, like at the CR10 and CR15 levels, it's harder for him to go back to being a human. It like the gargoyle won't let him go, right? It sinks its claws in. Let's see. Yeah. Humanity is a chore. That's true in my life as well. Transformation. Instantaneous. There's a T in there. Instantaneous. At CR5, he can. It's a bonus action, and he's eager to use it. I like this too because it's like mostly roleplay, right? Like rather than mechanic. Like there's some mechanics to back this stuff up, but it's mostly about his like outlook, right? Is what informs these mechanical choices. At CR10, he can no longer willingly transform and likely tries to escape combat. But when he takes or deals damage, he makes a save against transforming. Because I think there's something cool about if he's Erick and he's trying to fight as Erick, that if he deals damage, he has to make a save against turning into the gargoyle. Like the sight of blood, right? Like turns him into the gargoyle. While a gargoyle, he only makes saves. Oh, eager to use it. While a gargoyle, if he fails a con save, he reverts back to human. While a gargoyle, or he doesn't need to make saves when he deals or takes damage. It takes 2 failed saves to transform back. While the gargoyle, he only, what did I say? He doesn't need to make saves when he deals or takes damage. He doesn't need to make saves, and he deals or takes damage. Oh, at higher levels, the transformation has a fire burst power. Anyone standing too close takes fire damage. / makes a dex save. And then at CR 15, he is encountered as a gargoyle. Whenever he doesn't, yeah, same thing. So he doesn't deal damage, deal or take damage. He makes a save. It takes 3 failed saving throws to revert him back to a gargoyle, or to a human. So once he bombs one of these saving throws, right, so if it takes multiple stages to turn him back to a human, once he fails one, can he go back to being a gargoyle? Maybe like killing someone brings him back to full gargoyle, and you have to like go through it again. Especially because if you think of him fighting or dropping an enemy to 0, not necessarily killing them. If you think about him fighting PCs, that's going to be pretty rare. It's like unlikely that he will be dropping PCs all the time, right? Like PCs at level 15 are going to be pretty tough. But I like the notion of if, okay, he's like weakened and they've beaten him up and he looks like he's about to revert back to a human, that he would like fly away and find a quick murder somewhere. He might go and find some NPC and kill them to bring himself back to full strength to fight the party better. And I like the idea of like racing away from the combat to stop him from murdering someone, right? To get his power back. If he can reduce an enemy or target to 0 hit points, he goes back full hit points. He loses all levels of exhaustion, or whatever we say, right? I like that. It's complicated, but I think it's neat. That feels pretty good. I'm trying to think if there's anything else before we like get into the nitty gritty here. How's everybody doing? I feel like Eric could use a little bit of love in terms of like what his actual abilities are. Oh, also conceptually, what did we think? So we've done, for the higher level characters, right, the CR10 is always legendary, so they have legendary actions, which we can talk about when we get there. For Agnamah, we give Agnamah a lair. Agnamah and Dr. Hubert actually both got lairs. Desdemonia had regional effects. What do we think about Eric? Is there anything cool, any player-facing stuff we can give to them to make them extra interesting, or like give them some extra spin rather than just like here's some monsters? Is it too much to give like a lycanthropy thing? Can you get bit and turn into a gargoyle or some sort of a creature like that, right? Or a disease or something like that? Yeah, exactly, Jose. So I don't know if it, because like you could give it a lair. I mean, I'm not like opposed to it having a lair, but it feels like he's like a squatter. You know, he doesn't really feel like a powerful. I feel like he roams around and he hunts and he's not like fixed to one location. Where Agnamah, I feel like would roost and like have a lair. And obviously the Doctor is somewhat defined by his mad laboratory. So what can we do that's more like extra? What other layers can we paint on top without complicating the monster, but adding in some interesting stuff? It could be like rather than like lycanthropy, I forget what it's called. I think in 4th edition, the like lycanthropes gave an ability called Moon Frenzy, like a disease called Moon Frenzy, that basically caused you to act violent and crazy during the full moon. If you had it, you didn't turn into a beast or anything like that, but it was basically just like a madness that he spread. Oh, that's cool. He could have a regional effect, you're saying, Alan, essentially, kind of like Desdemonia. I like that. I also think we can give him the disease that, like, maybe if you get bit by him or something like that, or if he reduces you to 0 and then you come back, that you come back with madness or with moon frenzy or something like that. That it's like yeah, because I think in 4th it was like if you get hit by the claws or you're bit by a lycanthrope, you have to make a save or whatever. I'm trying to think if there's like an easier way to do it or a simpler way rather than every round you're constantly making saves against it. How do they do like mummy rot and stuff nowadays? Is it like that? I mean, I'm just looking up a werewolf. How a werewolf work? I think it's just if you get bit, you have to make a save, and every time you get bit, you make a new save. But yeah, I think him having like regional effects that like in this area, people are frightened and they, make the sign of the cross or whatever against the demon, and they see the like paintings on the doors and stuff like that. Then this is where the gargoyle hunts. How does it work? Yeah, it just says if a target is a humanoid, it must succeed on a DC 12 con save or be cursed with werewolf lycanthropy. So I don't know. He could have a bite. I mean, he has a bite attack, but I never really thought about his bite as being, spreading a disease. I kind of almost like it, basing it more off of the white. Because petrified every red moon, grows like a festering moon. That's cool. Do it like a stone skin thing. The way the white works is if the white, is it a white? It's some kind of undead. It might not be the white, but there's some undead that if they kill you. Yeah, that's what it is. So the white has life drain. The target must succeed on a con save or take its hit point maximum is reduced by an amount equal to the damage taken. This reduction lasts until the target finishes a long rest. The target dies if this effect reduces its hit point maximum to 0. A humanoid slain by this attack rises 24 hours later as a zombie under the white's control, unless the humanoid is restored to life or its body is destroyed. The white can have more than 12 zombies under its control at one time. So the notion of if you are reduced to 0 hit points by the gargoyle, you come back with moon frenzy or whatever the thing is, right? Like maybe your skin is all fucked up, but you have this disease. I think it's possible the monster could bite a dude, not kill him. I think if he kills if he attacks like a peasant, yeah, he could bite you and kill them every time. But if he bites the fighter's got 160 hit points or whatever. So I think, yeah, the conceit is that like his bite, that to the average commoner, if he bites you, then you come back. Or this person was slain and then came back. I'm just trying to find a way to make it not just lycanthropy. Like you get bit and you have gargoyle lycanthropy. I like it being like a violence thing if we make it all about the intoxication of that. And once you're touched by violence, you're more likely to be violent. There's like some cool thematic stuff in there. Yeah. I don't know. That might not be perfect, but that might be a good way because I feel like that's the thing you could give to the party. Like this is a disease we made. Or like you put in the packet, right? There's the regional effects and then a disease. In the same way that like Desdemonia has the regional effects and the like you're charmed by Desdemonia condition. This is like a sort of parallel in that way. But yeah, we can come back to it. I like the red moon tie. I think that's kind of neat. Oh, that could be a fun thing we could do too, where. This is weird. What about a thing that we put in the Sorry, I'm thinking. Your red moon comment, Jose, made me think. Yeah, people around him become more like him. I think that's cool. I think there could be something still mystical about, so here's my thought. The red moon. So is there something where once the gargoyle has fought them or been defeated by them or whatever, that, it makes me think of Breath of the Wild, right? Like the weird moon that spawns all the monsters. Is there a thing you could drop into your campaign that we could put in the monster packet that's like, this is the blood moon, and whenever the blood moon happens, the gargoyle appears and hunts down his enemies or whatever. That like he's essentially a random encounter that you. Oh shit! Sorry. He's essentially a random encounter that appears at the blood moon, and we make it like during the blood moon, players have to make wisdom saves against this, and the gargoyle attacks and does stuff and is more powerful or whatever. That's where like the night stuff comes in. Exactly, Brooke. I was thinking of the Breath of the Wild blood moon, like including in the like monster packet. Like this is an event that you can drop in the middle of your campaign at any time, right? Sort of as a little sub quest or like a sub thing that like here's this. The gargoyle returns and attacks the party again. Mm-hmm. Oh, I think that's totally right. It definitely plays into the werewolf paranoia as well. Are you guys seeing like weird glitching on the Google Doc? Because I keep seeing it on my OBS. I'm not sure if that's just OBS or if you guys are seeing that too. And maybe you make a thing where yes, the gargoyle appears on the blood moon, and it glitching. Yes. Okay. Let me try this. Nope, that's the wrong one. Nope, that's me. Is it just the Google Doc or is it me as well with the glitching? Let me know. Gotta close the Medusa. Okay. I'm doing that thing where I'm wearing the headphones for no reason again. It's giving me a headache. So I want to write down the blood moon because I think there's something cool with that. I don't know exactly how to do it, but I think you're right, Alan. I think it's like a lot about suspicion and paranoia. Blood moon event included in the packet whereby the gargoyle attacks and everyone in the region acts in paranoia. Like an angry mob roams the streets. Animals all act violent towards one another. The gargoyle swoops around, attacking or picking off random stragglers, picking out stragglers and lone villagers. It's like something you could sort of paste into whatever is going on in your campaign, assuming that you're near some sort of civilization, right? Like, the players make saves against a similar madness effect. Something like that, just to give it like a little bit of extra meat. But then he's also got regional effects as well. Regional effects. Paranoid villagers tearing their communities apart in search of the beast. What other regional effect type stuff? Like the paranoia, I like. We're getting a lot of flavorful things, right? Them painting like signs on their doors and stuff, but like, what do we do for Desdemonia's regional effects? I'm trying to remember. Assassin, Madame Desdemonia. Crime in the city is rampant and the laws are rarely enforced. The characters could easily run afoul of a thieves' guild or cut purses, no hope of the guard coming to their aid. Anyone in the city who causes a problem with Desdemonia is targeted by an assassin every 1d4 days. It might be an ambush, it might be a poisoning, but it never stops. The city's denizens service her eyes and ears. When asked about services, they always seek to steer the characters into her influence. Is there something about like the night being especially nasty, that like no one goes out at night, that everyone is terrified and shut up and like, something like that? Night holds a special terror. People shut themselves inside and refuse to answer the door. No inns or taverns or brothels or whatever. No inns or taverns are run. Everything is shuttered. Yeah, it definitely has a gothic horror feel for sure. A lot of these first villains do. I feel like there's like a really strong gothic thread that runs through between Desdemonia and Dr. Hubert and the Gargoyle, and our new villain, Phantasmagoria, who was just introduced today in the new episode of All Hail Yogs. Go check out that if you haven't already. The Instrument. There's like one more cool regional effect here. Besides the Blood Moon, right? People are paranoid, suspicious of each other, and short and rude. Yeah, dude, you should go listen to it. Not now, obviously, as we need your expertise. What to do? We can come back to it. There's like another cool regional effect. So let's try to design Erick today, and then go from there. So we can design all three of the gargoyles next time. So, insert, break, page break. Go grab a stat block. We'll grab the low-level Dr. Hubie. So he'll be a CR5, just because that's simplest. And then the gargoyle will also be a CR5, so it's kind of a wild-shaped thing where you fight one, and it presumably pretty quickly turns into the other. So we'll just put Erick Idylvain right now. I want to call him like a wretch or something like that. Medium humanoid. He's neutral. His AC is what it is. His hit points are what they are. Oh, that's interesting, Alan. There's something to be done with people who've fallen prey to the monster. Like, not that they're undead, that doesn't make sense, but that their spirits can't rest. They've died in terror. Is that a regional effect, do you think? Or is that just like a mechanical thing, like a trait that anyone that the gargoyle kills can't be resurrected until the gargoyle is slain? Like, that's actually a really cool mechanic. We could put that under regional effect. It feels more like because I feel like that would almost apply more to PCs. Yeah, I'll write it under there. I think it's cool. I like the notion of a monster who, like, if they slay you, you cannot be resurrected. Like, your soul is trapped in them or something like that you can't be resurrected until the monster is slain. Everyone slain by the gargoyle is in spiritual torment. Anyone killed this way cannot be raised from the dead until the gargoyle is defeated. Oh yeah, that's kind of interesting. But they wouldn't be ghosts, right? Because they'd be actual undead, you know. Like, I like the idea of like horrible abandoned ghost towns. But I don't know if we'd actually like bring them back. It could, I guess. It feels a little outside of his power set, but we can figure it out. He's got 30-foot speed. His perception is whatever. It's presumably relatively low. I think he's got like 10 strength. Pretty decent dex. I think it's like 16. He's sort of a sly, conniving little buddy. Pretty decent con. His intelligence, I think, is like 10. It's standard. His wisdom is okay. I think it's like a 14. So his perception would be +2, and his passive perception would be 12. And his charisma is the low score. It's like an 8 or a 9. Say 8. -1. First new bonus +2. His saving throw is con for sure. So he's got 4 con right now, but he's presumably be making the con saves as a gargoyle, in which his con would be much better. We'll give him wisdom as well. Or dexterity, I guess. He's like a dexterity +5. Cool. Skills we can do later. I'm not too worried about it. His challenge rating is 5. I don't know about his traits. He's got a few. So I'm going to put these in brackets. Feral Instinct was one of them. Erick has advantage on initiative checks. On initiative rolls. And how does Feral Instinct work? It's something where like he could take an extra bonus action. Because it's a barbarian ability. Where like you have advantage on initiative and you can take an extra action if that action is to rage. So it's something like that he can like tap the thing and transform right away, first thing. Crippling Guilt, disadvantage on charisma saves. That's interesting. I'm trying to think of like what the charisma saves. Like Banishment, I know is a charisma save. I don't know if he's got Crippling Guilt yet, but I could see him having something like that higher levels. Because I think right now he's still like drunk on the power. Initiative rolls and something else. He's got like a survivor. Also ability to blend in. That's cool, especially if like it's all about who is he and who isn't he, right? That like I like that actually. I don't know how we would do that, but blend in. Erick has advantage on dexterity saving throws against effects. So Danger Sense makes sense to me on some level because he's kind of a like dodgy, like furtive, survivor. He's kind of a coward, but I'm finding that harder to translate into a monster stat. What was I looking at for Barbarian? Something. Feral Instinct. Additionally, if you're surprised at the beginning of combat and aren't incapacitated, you can act normally on your first turn, but only if you enter your rage before doing anything else on that turn. Has advantage on initiative rolls and can... something about like using his reaction to turn into a gargoyle. I'll just put an advantage on initiative rolls for now. So how we do the blend in ability, that's the one that interests me the most right now. I want to call it like nondescript. So like inside checks against inside checks against him have like disadvantage or something like that, or like that's too bland. Is it something about like his ability to like move through crowds or like go undetected? I just don't know how to mechanize it. Like, it's a cool idea. I want to put it in, but like how do you iterate? How do you play with the mechanics of it? Advantage on stealth stuff, right, is the obvious thing. I think it's a lot of just like advantage on this as his mechanics. He cannot be tracked by except by magical means. It's like a ranger thing. And it feels too magical. Erick Erick has an uncanny ability. Wisdom insight checks made to determine his motivations are made against him have disadvantage. But there's a funny thing with that too, where like if you tell, because yeah, the idea that like he's, you know, unassuming or whatever, that if you try to figure out if he's guilty, you know, you're likely to fail. But there's no way to do that mechanically without tipping off the players that he's the guilty party. Like, why would they be rolling with disadvantage? Because you'd have to tell them that. He. Oh wait, here's the problem. So if we said that he mechanically, the CR5 version of him transforms as like at will, but the CR10 he can't willingly transform and he has to make a save, then he needs different stat blocks, which I didn't want to do. I liked the idea of Erick having one stat block and the Gargoyle having 3 stat blocks. So we have to find a way to bake both of these into the same stat block. There's an advantage on initiative rolls. I wonder if it's like, in addition, he can transform into a gargoyle as a free action only if I wish I had the fair listing thing, but only if it's the first thing he does on his turn, right? It's the first action, the first thing he does on his, the first action he takes on his turn, The implication is that he's like shooting from the hip, that he can just instantly go, right? Like, not even as a bonus action, as a free action, that like, boom, I'm a gargoyle. The gargoyle is always ready. And then give him a trait, something about like, you know, he can, when he takes damage, takes or deals damage, he has to make a save. So even if he chooses not to transform, right? Or you could change it and have it be like, if he goes first in initiative. Transform into a gargoyle as a free action. Or if he wins initiative. And then make one of his actions transform. Right. How's everybody doing? A little quiet in the chat, just checking in. Ooh. Pathos, some sort of charm ability, targets consider Erick a friend. Yeah. That's not too bad. Does that go in with nondescript? Because I feel like I don't want his stat block to get too chunky, because the transformation I feel like is already going to be pretty fat. I feel like we could bundle pathos and stuff into nondescript. Like, I think you could make an ability, like a suite of abilities that are about his ability to like be considered a friend and like blend into crowds and like avoid suspicion. You know what I mean? I feel like that's all one like suite of powers. I mean, you could give it like a friends. So there's that spell friends, right? Like for 1 minute, the person considers you a close friend and will tell you whatever they want. You could give him basically that ability But the fun thing about that one is that at the end of the minute, they know they've had a spell cast on them and they become unfriendly or hostile or whatever, right? So, like, that he has kind of as a reaction, over he can cast friends on a target if they question him, and he's like, can charm them enough to get himself away or to do whatever, but shortly thereafter you, like, realize, like, wait, it was him. That's kind of interesting to me. So this would be transformation. Are you using it as an action, Alan, rather than as a trait? I think there's something with that. I just feel like he's so dirt simple. You know, I don't want to put a lot on him. I feel like he's the base block from which you build stuff. Erick can dash, disengage, or hide as a bonus action. In addition, he has advantage on Yeah, I hear you. I think he's sympathetic. It's tough because, like, what do you do here for a villain that's sympathetic? Especially, you don't want to, like, bake into the mechanics. Like, now you're his friend, you know? And I think, here's my thing with Erick, is that, like, I think he's kind of sympathetic, but I think at the same time, like, he's no more sympathetic than the Doctor, in my opinion. That the Doctor, you know, was once a good person and then made bad choices intentionally, like, with the conceit that he, like, you know, like, if the Doctor's choices are unsympathetic, then I feel like Erick's choices are also unsympathetic. That he took this power, right? He agreed to it. And that, to me, makes him unsympathetic. That, like, you knew you were going to be turned into a beast, and that, like, you enjoy slaughtering people, right? Like, maybe Erick doesn't. He doesn't now, but I think that, like, he did, you know? He took the power initially, and he liked the way it felt. And then only after seeing the destruction that he wrought and the pain does he, like, regret it, you know? So, like, I hear you. I don't necessarily think he shouldn't be sympathetic, but the question is, like, how do you balance that? How much of that is role-play? How much of that is mechanics? Like, what are we baking into his stat block? But I hear you. I feel like there should be something that's, like, a good, you know, like, pitiful or something like that, rather than sympathetic. Feels more on tone for me. Like, I don't think of Grima Wormtongue as being sympathetic just because he wants Éowyn, you know? That's, like, a humanizing quality about him, but it doesn't make him sympathetic to me. But, you know, tomato. Part of the point of it is that it's how you play them, right? It wouldn't be too hard to play him as a more sympathetic character. Why do I always spell things wrong? Initiative. To blend into a crowd. All wisdom insight checks made to determine... No, I don't want to do that. So he can... Because it almost makes me want to look up, like, the folk hero's ability, which grants you, like the common people will, like, hide you, right? That he has, like, a way with commoners. What if it's, like, an ability that... Yeah, I don't know how you would mechanize that, but I like the idea of, like, playing up, like, how pitiful he is and how sort of weak, and so the notion of, like, an attack against him when he's incapacitated or unarmed or something has disadvantage, right? That, like, you can't bring yourself to it. So he can know your face and tell the monster about it for later, giving the monster some advantage in combat after transformation. Huh. That's kind of interesting. So that's his... Yeah. Okay. What do we do here? So what are the different ideas we have? So friends as the spell, right? Disadvantage on insight checks, conveying information to the monster. Is there something about like that the monster like actively deals more damage to characters or creatures targeted by his friend's ability or something? That like the gargoyle resents the friends that he has? You know, like there's that duality between Eric and the gargoyle in the show, right? That Eric wants the flower for like a tiny bit of humanity, but the gargoyle hates that, right? Wants to tear it up. Oh, the monster does more damage to anyone who's wronged Eric. That's cool. I don't know how you do that. You're right. Like anyone who hurt Eric's feelings. I like that though. Like it's good. It's good on story. I mean, you could do a thing where like Eric can designate targets like as like make his rather nondescript, make his ability friendly, and he can designate certain numbers of people his friends, and then the gargoyle deals more damage to them, or similarly to enemies, right? Like vengeful minded or whatever. I can't decide if it's better to have him deal more damage to friends or enemies. Enemies. Pitiful. Hard to hurt or deal damage to. Like, cannot be tracked. So we need to figure out, like, what does this power do? Because it's like so many different ideas. Is it about his ability to blend into a crowd, which I think is strong and plays into the paranoia thing, right? If he's like hard to find and hard to pin down, then that to me feels like it like leads into the paranoia and the regional effects and stuff. Is it that he's really friendly? Is it that it has something to do with like vengeance and the gargoyle's ability to deal more damage to targets that Eric either likes or doesn't like? Because that's like so many different conceits. I think blending in is supported by other mechanics. I think friendship is supported by the way Paul plays the character, right? And like the characterizations. Like those two, and they don't seem to me incompatible. There might be a way to like package them together. I just don't know what that is. To make friends is an uncanny ability to inspire sympathy. Because, like, it's tough because he doesn't feel like he's deceitful. I don't feel like he lies to people about who he is or what he's done. So the notion of, like, insight checks made against him, right, feels weird. Gosh, why is this so tough? What a weird character to have to mechanize. I don't know, folks. Maybe we gotta come back to it. It's just so dense with ideas. Eric transforms into the gargoyle. So here's a question. I mean, actually, this is probably a really lightly packed... come on, stop it. Transforms into the gargoyle. To the gargoyle. Like, what else do you put for that ability? I don't know. Ugh, my brain is just not working. What else do you put for that ability? Like, because the gargoyle is a separate stat block, right? He remains the gargoyle until he fails his saving throw. Yeah, he remains a gargoyle until he either fails a Constitution saving throw his Constitution saving throw, or until the gargoyle is reduced to 0 hit points. Any damage that reduces the gargoyle to 0 hit points. Actions could be like come a little closer or stay away as a preamble for transformation. You just have to save out of being repelled or attracted. Yeah, that's interesting. I don't mind stay away. But again, like I guess I'm just confused as to like his motivations, right? That like in the narrative that we haven't really explored very much in the podcast, he does it to like protect his church. Like he's a member of this like weird heretical sect, and he's like they're chased around all over the time, and so he never gets like a response from his god. So he makes this pact with Yogg to get the power to defend his people, but then it goes overboard, right? And he ends up killing innocents or killing his own followers, and he's like enslaved to Yogg, so he has to keep doing these missions. So like the question with come a little closer or stay away is that like he's trying to like stay away feels very Hulk to me, and that feels on brand. Come a little closer almost makes it feel like he wants to kill you, which does he at this stage? Like what? I don't know. Like, that's the problem. Is I feel like I like the notion of him being willing to use the power right now because it's why he made this bargain or why this thing happened to him, right? So come a little closer makes more sense on that level, but then stay away feels more on brand for sort of the Hulk transformation-y aspect. I don't know. If he has this thing, if he has, like, he could turn into a gargoyle at a moment's notice, then come a little closer or stay away feels, I don't know. You have to, like, pick a side. I'm sorry, guys. I feel like I'm having a tough time connecting with this one. Maybe we should move on to the gargoyle and come back? I just feel like I'm not... Here, let me look up the wild shape, because this is a mechanical thing. What do you guys think? Do we feel like he's out of... Like, I feel like Erick is not coalescing very well. And again, these are all good ideas, folks. I don't want you to think that the ideas are bad or that they don't work. I'm just trying to make them coherent, like, together. You know, trying to make all the different mechanics mesh. And that is proving surprisingly difficult for some reason. For Erick in particular. Whereas, like, at Desdemonia, I feel like we had, like, locked down, you know? What do you mean by that, Alan? Which, I'm not 100% clear what his deal is either, but go ahead and... can you be more specific? Because then we can try to talk it out. Yeah, essentially. I mean, he's also a monster. He's not necessarily, like, a fully fledged character, right? He needs to be a villain. I think he's someone who made a bad deal. He's essentially like a warlock, right? A character who made a deal with a powerful entity, and then that entity slowly consumed his identity, and he regrets it, and the regret, like, runs from the beginning to the end. He's been cursed. He can come back, yes, but make him remember with glee whatever he killed or did as a gargoyle, as a man of the church that would make him cringe and feel himself unworthy to be around anyone. And I think that's what's interesting to me, is that, like, him as a higher level gargoyle, if he's living his life as a gargoyle, that it's all about... we could lean on his Mark of Yogg. This character does feel more connected to the sort of patron than anyone else. I wanted to try to decouple Yogg from the monster designs here, because I didn't want to presume that people would be including this, like, huge ancient elder evil. I think we could still include something similar to that, but make a whole point about, like, who did this to Erick and why. Who did he make a pact with, right? Like, the Agdamod text that I have right now is a lot about, like, I'm not clear as to which god they worshipped or which god they were associated with and why they fell. I give you some different options. So we could, like, bake more of the sort of patron angle in, But again, I would want to be careful not to be too specific and use Yogg, or like bake Yogg into it, because we don't know that the people who use this will use Yogg necessarily, right? I don't want to dictate too much of their campaign to them, or make the character so bound up with the particulars of Yogg that you can't run him otherwise. But there might be something like that, like having the patron be more mechanically baked into the class. Let's see. If he reverts... Sorry, I'm just going to type this up. Go ahead and keep discussing, though. I'm sorry, I feel like I like everybody's ideas. I just feel like we have to make them all work together. If... Let's see. When he reverts to his normal form, moves gargoyle until he either fails his constitution saving throw or the gargoyle is reduced 0 hit points. Any damage that reduced the gargoyle, or any additional damage that reduced the gargoyle to 0 hit points. The excess damage. That's how that's phrased here. Carries over to Erick. It's normal form. Warlock to Pact of the Stone, Gothic Patron. Yeah, something like that. I mean, we could also change his origin, right? Rather than him getting having a pact from Yogg, he could have been cursed or prayed to a weird idol that gave him powers, right? Like, there's different ways to do it. He's got like a dagger. We make this like once per long rest. I feel like a lot of his abilities right now are like hinging on him just getting advantage on certain checks, and that's not very interesting. When Paul was designing the character, he wanted Erick the person to be sort of like a sniveling coward, right? Like this weak-willed, like shirking, Grima Wormtongue type figure who didn't inspire bravery, or you didn't think was very powerful or competent, kind of the opposite of the gargoyle, right? Who is this sort of hyper masculine killing machine. So what is the so that's where my instinct with some of these like survival and feral instinct and stuff powers come in, is that they're very based on that concept of the character. But I really like Alan's point about having him be like, playing into the sort of gothic horror werewolf paranoia, right? So having some kind of a nondescript power or something like that. I think the patron's cool. I just don't know what to do with the patron here mechanically, right? Like, not that you couldn't put that in the text or something like that, but I don't know what does that mean then if he has a patron, you know? Let me see if I can crack this nondescript thing, because this thing I like, and I want to keep the notion of him being hard to pin down, that he just seems like a regular person. Yeah, I think, Alan, that's a good question. He says, another approach. He's just transformed back into Erick from the monster. What's he able to do then? Run away? Plead for mercy? I think, yeah, that's a good angle to look at it from. If you think about the child, right? So he gets the monster pulled out of him at one point, where he loses control on the monster and turns back into Erick. And he becomes this sort of pitiful, somewhat useless character. He is, in that scene, still sort of devoted to Yogg and to Desdemonia, so he kind of like throws himself desperately into combat and achieves very little and ends up just kind of scrabbling away. So I think, yeah, he's all about hiding and skulking and getting away and making an escape. If he's not the gargoyle, that I think in the CR5 version he trips the gargoyle thing right away, and then tries to stay as a gargoyle as long as possible. If he's reduced back to Erick, then I think he runs and hides and tries to get away. I don't think there's anything confrontational about him in that form. Yeah, that's all cool, Jose. I think that's interesting. I'm just not sure how to put it in here right now. So I think it's about hiding, and it's about and that I think plays into the nondescript thing, right? That he has an uncanny ability to blend into a crowd, because he's trying to avoid being detected. But that also like makes it feel like he's sort of a liar and a conniving mastermind, which he definitely isn't. You know, I still think he has kind of a sad, pathetic, like mumbly quality to him. So the notion of him being, you know, good at hiding in plain sight almost doesn't work, because he would need to be making deception checks and stuff like that to like throw people off of his scent. And he's got 8 charisma, right? So how do you marry those two ideas? So if you make it more physical, you could do stuff like he cannot be tracked except by magical means. Like, is there some way to mechanize that people forget having seen him or something like that, right? Like, is he's so kind of pathetic and harmless that, like, you just write him off? You know, he just looks like a derelict or a wretch. I don't know. As an action, he could cast Friends, we talked about. He's someone he's weak and he craves power, right, to like make up for his deficiencies. And so he gains power and he uses it to hunt, I think. I think he uses it at first maybe for a noble purpose, right, to right some wrong. In which case, then the, like, you know, anyone who deals damage to Erick, the gargoyle deals damage to them, is kind of interesting. That, like, it's about pursuing the ways he feels he was wronged as a person, which you brought up earlier, Alan. I think that there's some meat on that bone. I don't know how to mechanize it, but I think it's an interesting concept. It may be something that just ends up in the gargoyle rather than being here in Erick. Yeah, man, why is he so tough? So what we were talking about, right? All wisdom insight checks made against him have disadvantage. I like the friends thing because I think that that's one of those, when you talk to him, it seems impossible that he could be a monster. But then after the conversation is over, you realize, like, no, wait, he was acting really suspiciously, right? And you have confirmation. So let me look up the friends spell. That's... Maybe you like couple it with the insight check that, like, whenever a creature rolls an insight check against him, he can cast friends, right? He can convince them that he's innocent. This functions like the spell Friends. Although Friends says you have advantage on all charisma checks directed at one creature of your choice that isn't hostile to you. When the spell ends, the creature realizes you've used magic to influence its mood and becomes hostile towards you. I wish there was, like, I guess it would be Charm Person, right? Where it suddenly becomes friendly. That he has, I mean, it's what you suggested earlier, Alan, right? That he has, like, a charm style effect. Charm Person 5e. I think Charm Person lasts a little bit longer. I think it's like 10 minutes. Might even be an hour. Charm person lasts for an hour. Regards you as a friendly acquaintance. When the spell ends, the creature knows it was charmed by you. So there might be something like that. When targeted by a wisdom insight check. But the problem is that if you do that, then the player knows that the player would have to make a save against the charm person effect, right? Or whatever the charm effect is. So then they would know that, like, he tried to charm me. The player would know even if the character doesn't know. So it defeats that purpose too. How does the fucking ring of mind shielding work? Mind shielding. 5e. Because he could have something like that where he's like, you can't read his mind or you can't figure out his alignment or whatever. You can't tell that. Because if you just pinpoint, like, who's the monster, right? So you might have some kind of anti-divination stuff. Immune to magic that allows other creatures to read your thoughts, determine whether you are lying, know your alignment, or know your creature type. You can use an action to cause the ring to become invisible. Oh, huh. I didn't know that. Did you guys know that the Ring of Mind Shielding has a weird thing where if you die while wearing the ring, your soul enters it unless it already housed a soul. You can remain in the ring or depart for the afterlife. As long as your soul is in the ring, you can telepathically communicate with any creature wearing it. A wearer can't prevent this telepathic communication. I did not know the Ring of Mind Shielding lets you do that. I guess it, like, stores your mind right after you die. That's crazy. You cannot be tracked by magical means. Yeah, I didn't know that. That's crazy. Huh. Yeah, think about that for Ernst. Man, it doesn't really matter because Ernst is already dead, right? But that's neat. I didn't know that. Yeah, that's exactly the point, right? That's kind of what I was thinking about Ernst. But I don't know if that counts if you're a lich, right? Because you're already dead. You're undead. I like too that, unless it already houses a soul. I guess the question is, like, whose soul is in there? Like, did you make it or did you get it from somebody that you killed? Yeah, exactly, Alan. Needs the previous owner to whisper to him. Who's his previous owner? This is an important question we should figure out. Okay. So it's like not his ring. He took it from somebody. He cannot be tracked by magical means. He can't be, like, immune to that kind of magic. He has advantage on wisdom deception checks. He cleric had it. All of my old characters had a cleric inside it and had him tell me the world's wisdom. Yeah, that's fun. We have, like, a possessed character essentially right now in my Two of Annihilation game that's possessed by a coatl, and it's a lot of weirdness where they're always talking to themselves. Why is this so tough? I need some kind of a survivory type ability that lets him that isn't just danger sense from the barbarian, right? He's got to have some kind of I don't want to just give him advantage on saves. He could have evasion, I guess. Something else to give him the, like, get foe power, right? That if he is turned back into Erick, how does he get away? Pitiful, stay away. What other stuff have we talked about? Yeah, this is boring. Let's do the gargoyle. I just feel like this is not very entertaining, and I feel like I'm not cracking this. Whereas the gargoyle is, like, a much simpler nut. So let's just do the gargoyle, at least the CR5 one. You can chop a wood and make sticks and then build a house and craft tools and stuff. Oh, it's like Erick's power, that he's like a homemaker. Let's do the gargoyle, just because I can't hack it with. He's a Minecraft. Yeah, you got it, dude. Perfect. This is the CR5 gargoyle. Yeah, I feel like we never have any of the math for any of this stuff. He's got 20 strength. He's a big, good, strong boy. I can give him 18 maybe, and then 20, and then 22. Well, let's give him 20 for now. We can go up from there. He's got 20 strength. You think he's got like 14 dexterity. He's got some dex. He's got 20 con. 120 con. Dear God. And I think he's got Erick's int wisdom and charisma. Yep, he's got strength and con are his 2 saving throws. He has no skills to speak of. Maybe athletics. Strength is +7. Constitution is +7. Athletics. Maybe intimidate as well. Is +7. Intimidate plus, 1, I guess. That seems weird. Because he's got bad charisma. Okay, gargoyle. So we know he has Earth Glide. What else? He's got Blood Moon. Siege Monster. Yep. He's got his senses. He's got Dark Vision. I don't know where that would go. Senses. Dark Vision 60 feet. He's got Earth Glide. He's got the Bloodlust thing. He's got the saving throw thing. He's got... I don't think he can willingly transform back into Erick once he's a gargoyle. I think he stays there. Oh, right, his resistances. How do you do this? I don't understand. Is it perception plus 12 or 12? He is resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, we could do something with that, with a frightened condition, potentially. We have a lot, like, Agdamal has a lot of fear stuff, but there might be a different way to do it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You would also need to have him have some kind of frightening ability. Bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage from non-magical weapons. This is repetitive. I don't know how to do that. We'll figure out the formatting later. Saving throw, like staying in. Hurl Flame is an attack. Some kind of a Hunter's Quarry thing. That's True Sight. Does Erick have an ability to basically mark people as Erick? You know? Like a reason that he wouldn't want to transform into the gargoyle right away? Or that if he is, like, transformed back into Erick, then he can, like, mark someone, and then when he's a gargoyle again, he has, you know, like a Revenant or something, that he knows where they are and he can hunt them down. Something like that, that, like, that's a good way to, if he got the power to, like, combat his enemies, then it would make sense to me that he would have an ability to, like, mark someone and say, "That fuck that guy, I'm gonna get him." And then when they're marked, they are afraid and have other... Because we talked about him dealing more damage to people that have wronged Erick. So can Erick designate someone as an action? Place a mark on them is a potential. It's a potentiality. He's got flight 50 feet, burrow 30 feet as well. I think like the monk from Diablo 3. He's just a human projectile. He has an artillery shell, so some kind of movement attack might be cool. Yeah, like a flyby attack, kind of a thing. Flyby attack / battering ram. Yeah, he's got. I think he's got some kind of a predator thermal imaging hunting thing. Exactly what form it takes, I don't know. For attacks, he's got Hurl Fire and Bite and Claws. He's even got multi-attack. He can use his attack with both Bite and Claws, or he can Hurl Flame twice. Bite, Claw, Hurl Flame. Siege Monster. Okay. The Gargoyle deals double damage to objects. He's heavy with Minnow Stone and he flies. Mass times acceleration. Dog. He is Minnow Stone, and I imagine he's extremely heavy. The Earth Elemental has Earth Glide. The Gargoyle can burrow. The Gargoyle can burrow through non-magical, unworked earth and stone. While doing so, the elemental doesn't disturb the material it moves through. So let's see. I like the idea of some kind of a bloodlust thing. That when he reduces an enemy to 0 hit points. Oh, we want to do like a nighttime ability, but I don't know if that's here or a higher level. We could do the flyby attack real quick while we're here. Flyby attack. We can make it an action, potentially. Exactly. Yeah. What is that called? He's got that. The Gargoyle has that too. I think the actual like mechanical gargoyle in the game has that. I forget what it's called, like natural camouflage or something like that. Where yeah, if he remains motionless, he's indistinguishable. False appearance. That's what it is. False appearance. While the gargoyle remains motionless, thank you, Alan, it is indistinguishable from an inanimate statue. It has Siege Monster, which is the name of the thing. So for flyby attack, though, you were imagining more of a bowling them over, right? Like, rather than flying by, doing a swoop. If the gargoyle moves his speed before making an attack or taking the attack action, you could have him like hit them and knock them super far, right? If the gargoyle, let me just type something out and see if it is crazy. I'm still call it Fell Swoop. We call it Fell Swoop. That's cool to me. Fell Swoop. Yeah, so if the gargoyle moves its full speed before attacking, before taking the attack action. Oh, that's cool. So I was just imagining it like hits. That it like moves its full speed, right? Or maybe flies its full speed for taking the attack action. It hits with like advantage and then it throws them, right? And he can bonus action to keep flying. The gargoyle flies its full speed before taking the attack action. It can cast Shatter. As a... I mean, we could, rather than saying that it casts Shatter, But I like it having to dive, right? Like come all the way down and boom, rather than just casting it where it meets the ground at speed. So if it flies its full speed before taking the attack action, it hits. Let me look up Shatter. Shatter's like a big area, but what I think is great about that, Alan, it's a good way to mechanize it, is because it Shatter specifically deals double damage to or like inanimate objects have disadvantage on saving throws against it, right? Like cool. So it's like the gargoyle flies its full speed before taking the attack action. It can force all creatures within a... I don't know how to mechanize it. Because it's a Constitution saving throw, and they take 3d8 thunder damage. It can spend a bonus action to slam the ground, or like it gains advantage on its attack roll, and what if it gains advantage on the first attack roll, and on a hit the target takes an additional 3d8 bludgeoning damage, is knocked 15 feet, or is pushed 15 feet and knocked prone. It's prone. So then the conceit being that, like, yeah, it could basically the problem with Shatter is that then it requires them to make a Constitution saving throw, right? Like, stone takes double, which I feel like is weird, right? That like he flies in and he makes you make a con save. Like then that means he has to hit the ground, right? Which I don't know if you want to get that specific in terms of like what is the spacing. I like it. I mean, I think Shatter is right. And if he has Siege Monster, the gargoyle does double damage to objects anyway. So if he comes in, like he flies his full speed for making the attack action, he gains advantage on the first attack roll, and on a hit, the target takes an additional 3d8 bludgeoning damage, is pushed 15 feet, and knocked prone. So if it's an object that he attacks, right, it's just as the target, then the object would take whatever the normal attack damage is, presumably like a bite or claws, like swat a wall down or something, right? Take an additional 3d8 bludgeoning, is pushed 15 feet, and knocked prone. You could just put in the target must make a con save, but I like that if he hits it, it's just like this meteor, yeah, as you described it, dude. That's good. I think that's close. I mean, that's not exactly perfect, but I think that's pretty close. Bloodlust. If the gargoyle, or when the gargoyle reduces a target to 0 hit points, may choose to take a hard landing. Yeah, you could. So the gargoyle flies its full speed for taking the attack action. It can choose to make a hard landing. All creatures within, like, the gargoyle lands. Because, yeah, like, is it still flying then? And then forces all creatures within 30 feet of it or 15 feet of it. Make a saving throw, like a Constitution saving throw. DCX Constitution saving throw. Or take 3d8 E8 thunder damage. Is like the other way to do it. Oh, I don't think it needs 2 things like that. You know? Because, like, Meteor Strike like proposes the idea that it's flying anyway. So this has like two separate. If it's flying, it can do this. I think it's got to be one or the other, at least for now. Maybe a higher level version of it could have two. Oh, that's not terrible. Putting it all under one thing. I don't know about aerial superiority, but I think something like that is good. Aerial superiority. The gargoyle can choose to... Like, while flying, the gargoyle can choose to make a hard landing. It lands... yeah. I see. Yeah, they get bigger and bigger. Okay, well, I think that's interesting. I'm not sure. I love the idea of shatter. Oh yeah, Jose might still be here. Brooke was here for a while too. She might have departed. We're getting pretty close to the end anyway. I like the idea of shatter because I like him being a wrecking ball. I think that's a good way to mechanize it. I like the... Oh yeah, it's just you. Cool. I think we might call it. Just because I don't know what's wrong with me. I feel like I'm not in a good brainstorming place right now. Like, I think these are all solid ideas, but I'm just not connecting with any of them, which I think is more of a me thing than anything else. I'm going to put a / shatter thing here, so that way I don't forget. Shatter. But yeah, I think we might call it. Yeah, that's true. It's just trying to make it all like mesh, you know. Cool. So I think we're probably gonna call it. Thanks for coming out, everybody who came out. We will come back to this hopefully with fresh eyes. I feel like I've just been banging my head against this all day today. It was a pretty rough day besides this, so I might be distracted otherwise. But I think we made some good progress. We have like a lot of cool ideas that just need to be iterated properly, maybe when my brain is in a better space. So thanks for coming back and watching, even though it was maybe not the most exciting stream you've ever seen in your life. But we'll come back to Eric next week and the gargoyle with fresh eyes and hopefully get a second stab at him. But until then, thanks for watching, everybody, and as always, happy adventuring.